Good morning, friends. Hello. I'm Dr. Giovanda Norman, and in support of Health Ministries, I'll be providing a brief overview of how a clinical psychologist can be helpful in your health and wellness. So, the field of psychology, the profession of psychology, has several fields. I'm a clinical psychologist, however, there are, as you can see here, this may not be all of them because there are so many new fields that on a regular basis people are being trained in. We do have to learn information, and we're trained and educated in every field in order to be able to serve, but these areas, we all specialize in our own area based on our internship and fellowship. The profession of psychology is considered the study of the mind and behavior. It's a discipline that embraces every aspect of the human experience, all of functioning, and it's pretty much involved in everything. Since we need to use our brain in order to function, we need to use our brains to reason, and our brain tells our body what to do. So this is a field that is pretty much we could pretty much serve almost anybody. Clinical psychology, as the American Psychological Association says, it's involved research, teaching, and services relevant to applications of principles, methods, and procedures for understanding, predicting, and alleviating intellectual, emotional, biological, psychological, social, and behavioral maladjustment, disabilities, and discomfort applied to a wide range of clients, populations. So a clinical psychologist more specifically, we work with clients who struggle with mental health challenges, emotional challenges, and behavioral challenges. Most of these challenges usually range from short-term to long-term. Some are mild, moderate to severe. Every experience is considered to fall within the framework of biological, psychological, it's biopsychosocial. So when we go to conduct an assessment, we're looking at biological factors, if people experienced developmental issues, even from the womb, if people had trauma to the brain throughout a developmental stage. All of those things are going to impact how we'll be able to approach the treatment process. Some of the populations we provide care for, children, youth, families, couples, from every racial and ethnic group, from every sexual identified group, and we also provide care for older adults. We're trained and educated in a wide range of techniques, theoretical approaches, and knowledgeable enough to be able to advance the science of psychology, professional practice, and to support people's overall general health and well-being. Some of the settings you'll see clinical psychologists in are mostly private practice, but hospitals, at schools, in the school setting, and also there are psychologists that work on staff with the media outlets. So the reason those commercials are so good is because there's a psychologist on staff training people on how they can really get to you. It's the same thing with food. Every food agency has a clinical psychologist, maybe not a clinical psychologist, maybe an industrial psychologist, but every profession uses psychologists to help them to capture the population they want to be able to get to. So the pathway to becoming a licensed clinical psychologist, first, after you complete your undergraduate degree, which would be in behavioral health, you would need to complete graduate school and then a doctoral degree. So I have a PhD, but there are some licensed clinical psychologists who have a PsyD, and they specialize in counseling, and I'm a research-focused clinical psychologist. So I'm a philosopher, and they would focus on the counseling aspect. I had to conduct individual field research as part of my education and training, and they get to pass that part. They don't have to spend what usually people spend, sometimes between 5 and 10 years on their research. My research project was 7.5 years. So you get that degree, then you have to pass the professional exam, and then the law and ethics exam, which in the state of Texas is the jurisprudence exam. And then you have to obtain a provisional license, because you have to be formally licensed with the board in order to provide that professional experience. So you get a provisional license in order to do the internship and the fellowship. So, and you have to have 3,500 hours. Some of those hours are supposed to be obtained prior to completing the doctoral degree, and then the other half are obtained after you've already been awarded with your doctoral degree. And I added some of these pictures because these are some of the things that I had to do to make it through that 12 years of life. So you'll be in school a long time if you plan on becoming a psychologist. So why are psychologists even needed? I wanted to share, this is one of the most recent studies that I found. Although the research was presented in 2020, the actual study was conducted between the years of 2022 and 2023. So what they found is more than 2.7 million children and adolescents reported experiencing symptoms that were associated with severe major depression. They found that 1 in 10 children struggled with depression, and although they had insurance, they were unable to have access to mental health care, even with formal insurance policy. So they had a mental health illness that they weren't able to get access to professional support to address. They also found that 6% of youth that were surveyed reported that they used a substance of some sort in a way that it contributed to it actually meeting diagnostic criteria. With regards to, and the last one, 60% of youth reported experiencing symptoms associated with major depression, and a lot of people really struggle with the thought of, for whatever reason, actively participating in formal treatment. So for whatever the reason is that they shared, they did not receive treatment for their experiences. Relating to the adults, about 21% of those adults that participated in the study, which is roughly about 50 million, reported that they experienced symptoms associated with at least one mental health illness. 55% of adults with a mental health illness did not receive treatment. And we know that a lot of times within the household, there's a lot of shame and guilt associated with experiencing a mental illness, so people try to do things on their own to try to self-soothe or try to self-treat. A little over 5% of adults experience severe mental illness, and over 12.1 million adults, about 4.8%, reported experiencing thoughts associated with suicide and not wanting to be alive. And those numbers doubled for persons who identify as more than one ethnicity. So I like to share what the difference between formal mental illness is versus not, because a lot of times in passing or in the community, you'll hear people say, oh, I'm so this, and fill in the blank with a formal diagnosis. And I think that our sister, I don't know if you're familiar with Brene Brown, she did a wonderful series called Atlas of the Heart, and she educates people on how to effectively communicate, how to express how they're feeling in a more accurate way, because we don't use our language in the way that it should be. A lot of times we know that if people are feeling sad, if people are despaired, there are a number of ways to express that, but sometimes we just grab the first word that comes to mind and we really aren't very thoughtful about how to express ourselves. And so I want to share here the difference. So I'll start with what formal mental illness is. So another way to describe mental illness or mental health disorders, and that's the way that it is in the DSM-5 when we actually diagnose. And there's a range of mental health conditions or disorders that affect mood, thinking, and behavior. A few examples are depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, various sexual disorders, addictive disorders, or eating disorders. Some symptoms include feeling hopeless, sad and down, confused thinking, poor concentration and focus, excessive fear, worry, or guilt, significant tiredness, low energy, or problems with sleeping, and that just means even struggling with being able to get to sleep or struggling with being able to move forward in the day because you're having a hard time getting out of the bed. Also, extreme mood changes, severe withdrawal from social interactions and activities, detachment from reality, delusional, paranoid, and experiencing hallucinations. And when persons experience those hallucinations, that a lot of things, what usually comes to mind is that people are seeing things. Some people struggle with hallucinations where they smell things. If they experience severe trauma, they may smell a scent that reminds them of what happened during that event. And so there may be in an environment that triggers a reminder of what that experience was, and they may smell whatever that environment was, and it really involves all five senses. Some people can taste things that are not there. Some people hear things that other people don't hear, or see things that other people don't see. Every one of these challenges are considered a disorder or illness when people have the inability to cope with their regular day, and they're not able to move through what would be considered normal. I don't really believe in the word normal. I say like average, because we're all uniquely made. I feel like everybody has their own what normal is, but. So when they're not able to cope with day-to-day problems or stress, and when they're thinking of hurting themselves or others, and also when we're conducting an assessment or doing testing, we'll look at, what the severity is, how frequent these things are happening, what the duration is, and what that level of manageability is. No matter what's happening or what the experience is, it should always be a licensed professional who is providing that diagnosis. We should not be diagnosing ourselves, because there are so many things, so many factors that help to contribute to why people are experiencing. If they've experienced a life stress, then that's something. So these are some things that you want to be aware of on the side, like saying, oh, she's so bipolar, because mental health disorders are not adjectives. I have a panic attack. Oh, I was feeling so depressed. Quit being so psycho. You look anorexic. I swear I'm so retarded. My OCD is coming out. Or saying, I stayed up, I have insomnia. And we have to ask ourselves sometimes, where's God in mental illness? Does God even care about mental illness? So I've pulled some of these Bible verses out to help to align with actual evidence-based, research-based approaches and interventions, which are in line with Bible verses. So we have, and they shall never perish, neither shall they man pluck them out of my hand. Do not be anxious for anything. Whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think on those things. How long wilt thou mourn? Who told you you were naked? Let the weak say, I'm strong. The tongue has the power of life and death. Very early in the morning, Jesus went off to his alone and solitary place and prayed. And do you not know that your bodies are the temples of the Holy Spirit? And some of the interventions that are taught in the middle of, during the treatment process, having a relationship with God and a faith, self-care,